You always hear people say they just knew when something was off in their relationship. I used to think that was dramatic, until I became that person, staring at my boyfriend, heart pounding, trying to figure out why his smile didn't reach his eyes anymore. This is how I found out the man I thought I'd marry was already halfway out the door. I can't tell you the exact moment I stopped trusting Evan. It wasn't some dramatic discovery. No lipstick on a collar. No midnight phone call from a stranger. It was just a shift. Something in his voice changed. We'd been together almost 4 years, lived together for 2. We met at a friend's bonfire party outside of Bend, Oregon. He handed me a burnt marshmallow and told me I looked like someone who hated small talk. I remember laughing and thinking, okay, that's original. By the end of the night, we were sitting in the back of someone's truck bed, talking about childhood dogs and favorite horror movies. It was slow after that. Easy, Evan was the kind of boyfriend who fixed your kitchen drawer without you asking, who'd text to say, come outside and show up with Thai food. I never worried about him, which is maybe why it hit so hard when I started to. The first time I noticed something weird, it was barely even anything. He came home from a work dinner late. Nothing unusual, except his voice when he walked through the door. It was flat, distant. He kissed me on the head and went straight to the shower without saying much. I asked how it went. He said, fine, just long. Then he locked the bathroom door. He'd never locked the door before. That night, I lay awake next to him and listened to his breathing. Steady, quiet. I wanted to wake him up just to ask, are we okay? But I didn't, because at that point, I didn't have proof of anything. Just a feeling that the person beside me was somewhere else entirely. It got worse slowly. Little things. He started putting his phone face down, turned off notifications because Slack was annoying. He stopped touching me as much. No more hand on my back when I cooked. No more brushing my hair out of my eyes when we watched TV. When I brought it up gently, he said, I've just been tired lately. Work is intense. You're reading into stuff. But I wasn't reading. I was remembering. Remembering how he used to look at me like I was the whole room. Now I felt like a lamp, something in the background. One night, I came home from work and found him scrolling through Airbnb listings on his laptop. I asked if we were planning a trip. He shut the lid too quickly. Oh, it's for work. Client retreat stuff. I remembered just nodding, even though my stomach dropped. Because why would his client retreat include romantic cabin getaways in the Columbia Gorge? I told my best friend Tasha over coffee that weekend. She didn't even pretend to be surprised. I've always had a weird feeling about him, she said. Not like he's evil, weird, just off. Like he only tells the truth when it benefits him. I laughed it off. Told her she was being dramatic. But later, I opened his laptop while he was in the shower, just to see if the browser history matched what he told me. It didn't. He hadn't looked at anything work-related. No emails, no spreadsheets, just Airbnb. And a search for a new cologne. I'd never smelled on him before. I didn't confront right away. I wish I could say I did, that I called him out and demanded answers. But the truth is, I spent the next 2 weeks pretending nothing was wrong, because pretending meant I didn't have to face the possibility that everything I believed about us was already falling apart. He started traveling more. Said his boss wanted him in Portland twice a week. I asked if he wanted me to come one weekend, make a trip out of it. He told me, it's mostly meetings. You'd be bored. I smiled. Said, okay, another time, maybe. And later that night, I wrote down every excuse he'd given me over the past month, every weird detail, every missing piece. I kept that list in my phone, in the Notes app, under a fake grocery list. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. Then one night, while I was folding laundry, I reached into the pocket of his jeans and found a crumpled piece of paper. A hotel receipt from a place in downtown Portland. The dates matched his business trip. But the room was for 2, and it wasn't near his supposed client's office. It was across town, next to a rooftop bar we'd gone to once for our anniversary. I stared at it for a long time, read it 3 times. The total was $387.62. I sat on the bed with it in my hands, heart pounding in my ears, and all I could think was, he doesn't even bother hiding it anymore. I didn't tell him I found it. Not that night. I needed to be sure. I needed to see it with my own eyes. I needed to catch him. So when he said, "You're imagining things," I'd have something to hold up and say, "No, not this time." I just didn't know that the truth was going to hurt way more than the lie ever did. People think finding a hotel receipt is the smoking gun. It's not. It's just the door cracking open, just enough to make you curious, but not enough to see what's really inside. For 2 days, I kept that receipt in my wallet. It felt like carrying a bomb. Every time Evan kissed me goodbye, I'd feel it pressing against the leather and wonder how someone could lie with such casual warmth. He didn't act guilty. That was the worst part. If anything, he was calmer, kinder, even. He started washing the dishes more, complimenting my hair, asking about my day. It was the kind of behavior shift that makes you think maybe you were overreacting. But that's the trick, isn't it? People who lie for a living, because that's what cheating is, a part-time job in dishonesty, get good at pretending. The next week, I decided to pay attention, like really pay attention. Every pattern, every inconsistency. Evan's job was in medical equipment sales. Lots of driving, lots of networking dinners. Before, I never tracked where he went. Why would I? But now I started noticing things that didn't add up. He said he was driving to Salem one Thursday for a lunch meeting. He left around 10 in the morning. I watched his location on Snapchat. Not obsessively, just curiosity disguised as habit. But halfway through the day, the little Bitmoji disappeared. Snap map unavailable. When he got home, he said, "We closed the deal. Huge day." But his eyes looked too alive for someone who'd spent 8 hours selling medical parts. Later, when he went to shower, I checked the car. The passenger seat was reclined just slightly, and there was a faint scent of perfume. Something floral, too heavy to be mine. I told myself it could have been anything. Maybe a coworker hitched a ride. Maybe air freshener. Maybe. But deep down, I already knew. Tasha noticed before I even said anything. We were grabbing tacos after work, and she said, "You've got that face again." What face? The one that says you're in a relationship with someone who's making you doubt your own sanity. I laughed, but it wasn't funny. She leaned forward and said, "You're not crazy, Lena. You know him. If your gut says something's wrong, it's because something is." Tasha had this blunt kind of empathy. She didn't sugarcoat, but she cared. She told me to start writing everything down. "Not because you're paranoid," she said, "but because liars gaslight you until you can't remember what's real." So I did. I kept notes. Dates, times, excuses, little fragments that didn't seem like much on their own, but together they started forming a pattern. One night, he left for another overnight trip. Portland again. Same story. Early client breakfast, long drive back. I waited until he was out of town before opening the laptop he'd forgotten on the kitchen counter. He was logged out of everything. Email, socials, all of it. But I noticed a file on the desktop labeled Work Receipts. Inside were PDFs, hotel invoices, restaurant tabs. I started scanning. Most of them looked legitimate until one stood out. The date matched his last trip. The hotel matched the other receipt I'd found. And the room service order. 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, a dessert for 2. My throat closed. I felt like I was floating outside my body, watching myself click through evidence of something I didn't want to see. There was even a note field under one bill that said, "Special request, rose petals before arrival." I closed the laptop and sat there for a long time. When he came home the next evening, I didn't confront him. I just watched, studied him like an experiment. He smelled faintly of that same floral perfume again. He told me he was starving and reheated leftovers, acting like everything was normal. That night, when he reached for me in bed, I froze. He kissed my shoulder, whispered, "You okay?" I nodded, because I wasn't ready yet. I wanted the full truth. No gray areas, no maybe. The next morning, I told him I had to work late. He said he had drinks with a client. I left work early, sat in my car near our apartment complex, watched as he left, button-down shirt and that same cologne I'd seen him look up online weeks before. My hands were shaking when I started the engine and followed him. He drove north, past downtown, past the freeway exits that would have taken him toward any client I knew of. Then he pulled into a hotel parking lot, not the same one as before, a smaller, boutique place near the river. I parked across the street, my pulse hammering. He texted me 15 minutes later, "Running late. Don't wait up." I stared at that message while watching him walk into the lobby. A woman was waiting there, blonde, tall, laughing. She hugged him like she'd done it 100 times before. They walked upstairs together. I didn't cry right then. I didn't even move. I just sat in the car until the windows fogged up, staring at the hotel lights reflecting off the river. There's something unreal about watching your life split in two. The part that still wants to believe the best, and the part that finally sees the truth. Eventually, I drove home. Parked. Sat on the couch in silence. At midnight, Evan texted again. Heading back to the hotel, crazy long night, love you. And I wrote back, love you too. Because I wanted him to feel safe in the lie. I wanted him to believe I was still blind. Because the next time he tried it, I was going to catch him in the act. And when I did, there'd be no excuses left to give. When someone betrays you, it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow bleed, a series of tiny, painful realizations until you're left standing in the wreckage of what used to be your life. By the time I decided to follow Evan again, I wasn't angry anymore, just hollow. That week, he told me he had another overnight client trip, this time to Portland again. I acted normal. Kissed him goodbye that morning, even made him coffee, the kind of small kindness you give someone when you're planning something they don't expect. Before he left, he said, "Don't wait up, babe. It'll be late." And I smiled, a small, practiced smile that didn't reach my eyes. When his car disappeared down the street, I felt my hands start to shake. Not from nerves, but from adrenaline. I grabbed my jacket, locked the door, and followed. He wasn't hard to track. Evan drove the same silver Nissan he'd had since college. I stayed several cars behind, my heart pounding so hard it made me lightheaded. He took the I-5 north. The sun was low, painting the highway in burnt orange and gold. My fingers dug into the steering wheel, palms sweaty. Every time he slowed down, I imagined him looking in the rearview mirror and recognizing me. Every time he sped up, I told myself it was fine. Just one more exit, one more turn. He finally pulled off near downtown Portland, same general area as last time, and turned into a hotel parking lot. Different hotel. Cheaper this time. Maybe he thought that would make it less suspicious. I parked across the street, 3 rows back, close enough to see but not be seen. Evan got out, checked his phone, and waited by the entrance. And then she appeared. She wasn't what I expected. Not flashy or young or some cartoon version of the other woman. She looked normal. Soft brown hair, a simple black dress, a nervous smile that looked too genuine. She hugged him first. He hesitated for half a second, maybe guilt flickering, then hugged her back like muscle memory. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. The way their bodies leaned toward each other told me everything. He held the door open for her, placed his hand on her back as they walked inside, the same way he used to do with me. My chest ached like I'd swallowed a stone. I stayed there for almost an hour, just sitting in the dark car, headlights of passing cars washing over me. Every minute that passed felt heavier. At some point, I took a picture. I don't even know why. Maybe for proof. Maybe because part of me still needed to see it again to believe it was real. The timestamp glowed on my screen, 8:46 p.m. I didn't cry until I got home. Not loud sobbing, just this slow, silent unraveling. Like my body finally realized what my mind had been denying for months. It's strange. I always thought I'd scream, throw things, demand explanations. But when it happens, you don't have the energy for rage. It's grief. Pure, heavy grief. I showered, crawled into bed, and stared at the ceiling until the room blurred. His text came in at 11:12 p.m. Heading to bed now. Long day. I miss you. I just stared at it. He was probably lying next to her when he sent it. Maybe even with his arm around her. That image burned in my mind until I couldn't breathe. The next morning, I went through his things. Not angrily, not snooping, just confirming. Because once you see it, you start noticing everything you missed. I found a second phone charger in his bag, a receipt for 2 coffees dated from a work trip weeks ago, and then, tucked behind an old baseball cap, a small velvet jewelry box. It wasn't for me. I opened it anyway, a simple silver bracelet. Inside the lid was a folded receipt from a boutique downtown, the same part of the city where that hotel sat. I closed the box, set it back exactly how I found it, and sat on the floor. It wasn't the jewelry. It was what it represented. He was building another life. 1 coffee date, 1 lie, 1 hotel room at a time. That evening, I called Tasha. I didn't even say hello. Just, you were right. She was quiet for a second, then said, "Tell me where he is." I laughed through tears. "He's at some hotel in Portland. I already saw him." "Do you want me to drive up?" "No," I said. "I just need to think." "Lena," she said softly, "you already know. Don't wait for him to confess. He'll lie until you show him proof." I did know, but I wanted to see how far he'd take it, how long he'd play the role. When he came home the next day, he brought flowers. My favorite kind, yellow tulips. He said he missed me like crazy. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it. He smelled like hotel soap and perfume that wasn't mine, and when I hugged him, I noticed a faint shimmer on his collar. Maybe makeup, maybe nothing. But I didn't need to guess anymore. I looked at him and felt this mix of disgust and pity. He thought he was winning. He thought he was smarter. But what he didn't realize was that I was already done with him. I just hadn't told him yet. That night, after he fell asleep, I took my phone and opened the picture I'd taken in the parking lot. Him and her, blurry but undeniable. I zoomed in. Her face was clearer now. She looked kind. Not sneaky, not malicious. Just unaware. And that made it worse somehow, because it meant she probably didn't know about me either. Evan wasn't just cheating on me. He was lying to both of us. That realization settled something in me. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to cry again. I was going to let him hang himself with his own lies. And when he did, I'd show him exactly what I'd seen. He thought the game was still going, but I'd already started writing the ending. I just needed to wait for the right moment, the one where he'd look me in the eyes and say, "I'd never hurt you." That was when I'd show him the truth. And watch everything crumble. You learn a lot about someone by how they lie. Not just what they say, but how they say it. The pause before they answer. The too steady eye contact. The way their voice softens just enough to sound like concern, not guilt. Evan had perfected it. And I let him get away with it longer than I should have. The morning after he got back from Portland, I woke up before him. He was snoring lightly, face turned toward the window like a man without a care in the world. And I just stared at him. Not because I missed him, because I was amazed by how someone could sleep that peacefully with that many lies sitting in his chest. I'd spent the whole night replaying the scene in the hotel parking lot. That woman, that laugh, that stupid miss you text he sent me while he was with her. And still, even after all of it, he came home and acted like nothing had happened. He even offered to make breakfast. "Pancakes or eggs?" he asked, rubbing his eyes. I said pancakes because I needed time to think. He smiled, kissed me on the forehead. I let him. I needed one last performance, one final lie from him before I burned the script. That afternoon, while he was on a conference call in the bedroom, I texted Qley. Yes, Qley. The other woman. It took me almost an hour to find her online. She had a small business account linked to a boutique in Portland, and her full name popped up in a tagged post on the hotel's Instagram. I didn't send anything dramatic. No accusations. No threats. Just, "Hey, I think we need to talk. I'm not coming to you as the girlfriend who got cheated on. I'm coming to you as someone who thinks we both deserve the truth." She replied 6 hours later. Wait. Evan? That was all I needed. We talked on the phone that night. Her voice cracked halfway through the call. She had no idea about me. She thought he was divorced. Said they'd been seeing each other for almost 6 months. He told her I was his ex, who still shared the lease until he could move out. She even met his mom once, apparently during a visit when I was out of town for my niece's birthday. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. I told her I wasn't mad at her. She started crying and apologized anyway. The next morning, I printed everything. Photos. Receipts. The Airbnb emails I'd forwarded from his laptop. The picture of them outside the hotel. Screenshots of Qley's messages. I stacked it neatly in a manila folder and waited. He came home from work around 6:30, dropped his keys in the bowl by the door, kissed my cheek like he hadn't just tried to balance 2 lives and fail at both. "Long day," he sighed. I handed him the folder. He looked confused at first. Like maybe I'd bought him concert tickets or something. Then he opened it. His eyes barely skimmed the first few pages before he froze. Then, like clockwork, he shook his head. "What is this?" "You tell me," I said calmly. Too calmly. He tried to play dumb. "Lena, this is crazy." There it was. That word, crazy. He used to call me that when I forgot where I left my keys, when I worried he didn't love me like he used to, when I asked why he came home smelling like someone else's shampoo. Crazy. No, I said, stepping closer. This is what crazy looks like. Gaslighting someone for months while you spend your weekends playing house with another woman. Nothing happened. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe he still thought he had a chance. She and I talked. I said, that shut him up. He stood there for a second, blinking, lips slightly parted. Then he sat down like his knees gave out. She didn't know about me either, I added, so if you're about to say you didn't want to hurt me, don't. He ran a hand through his hair, said my name like it was a prayer, like I was supposed to still care. I messed up, he whispered. You planned it, I corrected. You didn't slip. You made reservations. You booked rooms. You bought a bracelet. His face twisted. You went through my stuff. I tilted my head. That's what you're upset about? There's a moment in every confrontation when the power shifts. I felt it right then, like a light switch flipping. He wasn't in control anymore. He couldn't twist this or soften it or spin it. It was done. He asked if we could talk it through. Said, we've built a life together, Lena. I looked around at the apartment we shared, the couch we bought on sale, the shelf I painted while he was on a business trip. I didn't see a life. I saw a lie. You can stay with your mom, I said. He didn't argue. He packed that night. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't even close the door gently behind him. A week later, Carly messaged me again. She dumped him. Said he tried to say I was jealous and made it all up. She said, I told him he'd never get the chance to lie to me again. Well, I thanked her. We haven't talked since. It's been 4 months. I still flinch when I hear his car model in traffic. I still pause at the grocery store when I pass the pancake mix. But I don't miss him. What I miss is who I thought he was. The version of Evan I built in my head. The one who made me laugh during storms and called me at lunch just to say he loved me. That Evan never existed. I know that now. And me? I'm not broken. I'm just someone who trusted the wrong person, who found the truth the hard way, and walked away anyway. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. If you want to share your stories, please comment below. Additionally, what is your opinion on the poster's decision?